Here on the Great Central Asian Steppe is a vast, unbroken ocean of grass. This is a land of extremes, home to nomadic peoples for centuries. They live in rhythm with the seasons, following their herds. Their homes, called gurs, are easily moved. The people here are masters of their environment and expert horse riders. Their bond with animals is key to survival, providing everything they need. A river of horsemen appears. They are the Mongols, and their world is about to change forever as a new leader emerges to unite them. It is from this powerful culture that one of the world's greatest empires will soon be born. From the harsh, nomadic life, Temujin was born. His early years were filled with hardship after his father was poisoned and his family abandoned. These times taught him the importance of loyalty and strength. As a young man, Temujin showed a talent for leadership. He built a following based on skill and loyalty, a radical idea. He delivered victory in battles against other clans. His friendship with Jamuka soured, turning into a bitter rivalry. Temujin defeated Jamuka and all other rivals. In 1206 at a Kurultai, Temujin was named Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. He forged the scattered tribes into a powerful nation. The great journey had begun. Genghis Khan transformed his people into a highly effective military force. The heart of the army was its cavalry, warriors born to the saddle. Their mobility was astonishing, covering vast distances faster than any army of the time. Tactics combined discipline and deception, like the feigned retreat into prepared traps. Communication was key. The YAM system allowed rapid orders and intelligence. Masters of psychological warfare, they offered surrender or utter destruction. They adopted new technologies like siege warfare, becoming experts at breaking city walls. This combination made the Mongol army seem invincible. With his united people, Genghis Khan looked towards the wealthy kingdoms of China. He led his armies over the Great Wall, beginning a wave of conquest across the continent. The Mongol conquests stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, touching both the Yellow and Black Seas. The expansion continued after Genghis Khan's death. Under Ogedei Khan, Mongol armies pushed further west, sweeping across Russia and invading Europe. To the south, they conquered Persia and ended the Caliphate of Baghdad. The empire became the largest contiguous land empire in history. At its peak, the Mongol Empire controlled roughly a quarter of the world's land and population. While the rise of the Mongol Empire was marked by brutal warfare, its rule brought about a period of surprising stability. This era, lasting for over a century, is often called the Pax Mongolica, or the Mongol Peace. Once the conquests were over, the Khans understood that to rule their vast empire they needed order and trade, not constant war. They established a system of laws based on Genghis Khan's own code, known as the Yasa. This law was strict, punishing crimes like theft and adultery severely, which helped to make the empire a very safe place for those who lived within its borders. One of the most remarkable features of Mongol rule was their tolerance for different cultures and religions. Unlike many conquerors of the time, the Mongols did not force their own beliefs on the people they ruled. As long as their subjects were loyal and paid their taxes, they were free to practice their own faith, whether they were Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, or Taoist. The Khans often invited religious leaders from different faiths to their court to hold debates. This policy not only prevented religious conflicts but also encouraged a rich exchange of ideas across the continent, as scholars and priests could travel freely and safely. This safety was the greatest achievement of the Pax Mongolica. The Mongols policed the ancient trade routes like the famous Silk Road, making them safer than they had been in centuries. Before, a merchant traveling from China to Europe would have to pass through many different kingdoms, paying taxes and facing the constant danger of bandits. Under the Mongols, a traveler with a Mongol passport, or paisa, could journey from one end of the empire to the other with relative ease. It was said that a maiden carrying a nugget of gold on her head could walk from east to west without fear of being harmed. This new era of safe travel and communication led to an incredible explosion of trade and cultural exchange. Goods, ideas, inventions, and knowledge flowed freely across Asia. Paper money and printing from China made their way west. Gunpowder, the magnetic compass, and medical knowledge were shared. Spices, silks, and porcelain from the East found new markets in Europe. In return, European goods and ideas like astronomy and mathematics from the Islamic world traveled east. The Mongol Empire acted like a giant bridge, connecting civilizations that had previously had very little contact with one another. Despite its immense power, the Mongol Empire was not destined to last forever. Its very size became one of its greatest weaknesses. Governing such a vast and diverse territory from a single center was an enormous challenge. After the death of Genghis Khan, struggles began over who should be the next great Khan. The empire was eventually divided into 4 separate khanates ruled by different branches of Genghis Khan's family: the Yuan dynasty in China, the Golden Horde in Russia, the Ilkhanate in Persia, and the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia. While they were theoretically united, they often fought amongst themselves. These internal divisions weakened the empire from within. The different khanates began to drift apart, adopting the local cultures of the people they ruled. The Mongols in Persia became Muslims. The Mongols in China adopted Chinese customs and ways of governing. Over time they became less Mongol and more a part of the lands they had conquered. This process of assimilation meant that the unique cultural identity that had once bound them together began to fade. Local peoples, who had been conquered but never fully subdued, saw these divisions as an opportunity to fight back and regain their independence. Nature also delivered a devastating blow. In the mid-1300s, a terrible plague known as the Black Death swept across Asia, Europe, and North Africa. The plague traveled along the very trade routes that the Mongols had made safe. It killed millions of people, including a huge number of Mongols. The massive loss of life crippled the empire's economy and military. It weakened the Yuan dynasty in China, making it easier for Chinese rebels to rise up and overthrow their Mongol rulers in 1368, establishing the Ming dynasty. One by one, the other khanates also crumbled or were absorbed by rising local powers. By the end of the 14th century, the Great Mongol Empire had fractured completely. Though its time at the center of the world was relatively brief, its legacy was profound. The Mongols had reshaped the map of the world, connecting east and west in ways that had never been done before. They had spurred an unprecedented era of trade and cultural exchange that would have lasting effects on the development of civilizations. The memory of the thundering hooves of the Mongol horsemen faded back into the endless sea of grass from which they came, but the world they had made would never be the same again.